Chapter 10 of 813. This recording is in the public domain. 813 by Maurice Leblanc. Chapter 10. Lupin's great scheme. Contrary to his expectations, Lupin had no sort of annoyance to undergo in consequence of his assault on M. Formerie. The examining magistrate came to the Santé in prison 2 days later and told him, with some embarrassment and with an affectation of kindness, that he did not intend to pursue the matter further. "Nor I either," retorted Lupin. "What do you mean?" "Well, I mean that I shall send no communication to the press about this particular matter, nor do anything that might expose you to ridicule, Monsieur le Juge d'Instruction. The scandal shall not be made public, I promise. That is what you want, is it not?" M. Formerie blushed and, without replying, continued: "Only henceforth your examinations will take place here." "It's quite right that the law should put itself out for Lupin," said that gentleman. The announcement of this decision, which interrupted his almost daily meetings with the Doudevilles, did not disturb Lupin. He had taken his precautions from the first day, by giving the Doudevilles all the necessary instructions, and, now that the preparations were nearly completed, reckoned upon being able to turn old Steinweg's confidences to the best account without delay and to obtain his liberty by one of the most extraordinary and ingenious schemes that had ever entered his brain. His method of correspondence was a simple one, and he had devised it at once. Every morning he was supplied with sheets of paper in numbered packets. He made these into envelopes, and every evening the envelopes, duly folded and gummed, were fetched away. Now Lupin, noticing that his packet always bore the same number, had drawn the inference that the distribution of the numbered packets was always effected in the same order among the prisoners who had chosen that particular kind of work. Experience showed that he was right. It only remained for the Doudevilles to bribe one of the employees of the private firm entrusted with the supply and dispatch of the envelopes. This was easily done; and thenceforward Lupin, sure of success, had only to wait quietly until the sign agreed upon between him and his friends appeared upon the top sheet of the packet. On the 6th day, he gave an exclamation of delight: "At last!" he said. He took a tiny bottle from a hiding place, uncorked it, moistened the tip of his forefinger with the liquid which it contained and passed his finger over the third sheet in the packet. In a moment, strokes appeared, then letters, then words and sentences. He read: "All well. Steinweg free. Hiding in country. Geneviève Ernemont good health. Often goes Hôtel Bristol to see Mrs. Kesselbach, who is ill. Meets Pierre Leduc there every time. Answer by same means. No danger." So communications were established with the outside. Once more, Lupin's efforts were crowned with success. All that he had to do now was to execute his plan and lead the press campaign which he had prepared in the peaceful solitude of his prison. 3 days later, these few lines appeared in the Grand Journal: "Quite apart from Prince Bismarck's Memoirs, which, according to well-informed people, contain merely the official history of the events in which the great chancellor was concerned, there exists a series of confidential letters of no little interest. These letters have been recently discovered. We hear on good authority that they will be published almost immediately." My readers will remember the noise which these mysterious sentences made throughout the civilized world, the comments in which people indulged, the suggestions put forward, and, in particular, the controversy that followed in the German press. Who had inspired those lines? What were the letters in question? Who had written them to the chancellor, or who had received them from him? Was it an act of posthumous revenge? Or was it an indiscretion committed by one of Bismarck's correspondents? A second note settled public opinion as to certain points, but, at the same time, worked it up to a strange pitch of excitement. It ran as follows: "To the editor of the Grand Journal, Santé Palace, Cell 14, 2nd Division. "SIR, you inserted in your issue of Tuesday last a paragraph based upon a few words which I let fall the other evening in the course of a lecture which I was delivering at the Santé on foreign politics. Your correspondent's paragraph, although accurate in all essential particulars, requires a slight correction. The letters exist as stated, and it is impossible to deny their exceptional importance, seeing that for 10 years they have been the object of an uninterrupted search on the part of the government interested. But nobody knows where they are hidden, and nobody knows a single word of what they contain. The public, I am convinced, will bear me no ill will if I keep it waiting for some time before satisfying its legitimate curiosity. Apart from the fact that I am not in possession of all the elements necessary for the pursuit of the truth, my present occupation does not allow me to devote so much time as I could wish to this matter. All that I can say for the moment is that the letters were entrusted by the dying statesman to one of his most faithful friends and that this friend had eventually to suffer the serious consequences of his loyalty. Constant spying, domiciliary visits, nothing was spared him. I have given orders to two of the best agents of my secret police to take up this scent from the start in a position to get to the bottom of this exciting mystery. I have the honour to be, sir, your obedient servant, Arsène Lupin. So it was Arsène Lupin who was conducting the case! It was he who, from his prison cell, was stage managing the comedy, or the tragedy, announced in the first note. What luck! Everybody was delighted. With an artist like Lupin, the spectacle could not fail to be both picturesque and startling. 3 days later, the Grand Journal contained the following letter from Arsène Lupin: "The name of the devoted friend to whom I referred has been imparted to me. It was the Grand Duke Hermann III., reigning, although dispossessed, sovereign of the Grand Duchy of Zweibrücken Veldenz and a confidant of Prince Bismarck, whose entire friendship he enjoyed. A thorough search was made of his house by Count von W at the head of 12 men. The result of this search was purely negative, but the Grand Duke was nevertheless proved to be in possession of the papers. Where had he hidden them? This was a problem which probably nobody in the world would be able to solve at the present moment. I must ask for 24 hours in which to solve it. Arsène Lupin." And 24 hours later, the promised note appeared. The famous letters are hidden in the feudal castle of Veldenz, the capital of the Grand Duchy of Zweibrücken. The castle was partly destroyed in the course of the 19th century. Where exactly are they hidden? And what are the letters precisely? These are the two problems which I am now engaged in unravelling; and I shall publish the solution in 4 days' time. Arsène Lupin." On the day stated, men scrambled to obtain copies of the Grand Journal. To the general disappointment, the promised information was not given. The same silence followed on the next day and the day after. What had happened? It leaked out through an indiscretion at the Prefecture of Police. The governor of the Santé, it appeared, had been warned that Lupin was communicating with his accomplices by means of the packets of envelopes which he made. Nothing had been discovered, but it was thought best, in any case, to forbid all work to the insufferable prisoner. To this the insufferable prisoner replied: "As I have nothing to do now, I may as well attend to my trial. Please let my counsel, Maître Quimbel, know." It was true. Lupin, who hitherto had refused to hold any intercourse with Maître Quimbel, now consented to see him and to prepare his defence. On the next day, Maître Quimbel, in cheery tones, asked for Lupin to be brought to the barrister's room. He was an elderly man, wearing a pair of very powerful spectacles, which made his eyes seem enormous. He put his hat on the table, spread out his brief case and at once began to put a series of questions which he had carefully prepared. Lupin replied with extreme readiness and even volunteered a host of particulars, which Maître Quimbel took down, as he spoke, on slips pinned one to the other. "And so you say," continued the barrister, with his head over his papers, "that at that time—" "I say that, at that time," Lupin answered. Little by little, with a series of natural and hardly perceptible movements, he leant elbows on the table. He gradually lowered his arms, slipped his hand under Maître Quimbel's hat, put his finger into the leather band and took out one of those strips of paper, folded lengthwise, which the hatter inserts between the leather and the lining when the hat is a trifle too large. He unfolded the paper. It was a message from Doudeville, written in a cipher agreed upon beforehand: "I am engaged as indoor servant at Maître Quimbel's. You can answer by the same means without fear. It was L.M., the murderer, who gave away the envelope trick. A good thing that you foresaw this move." Hereupon followed a minute report of all the facts and comments caused by Lupin's revelations. Lupin took from his pocket a similar strip of paper containing his instructions, quietly substituted it in the place of the other and drew his hand back again. The trick was played. And Lupin's correspondence with the Grand Journal was resumed without further delay. "I apologize to the public for not keeping my promise. The postal arrangements at the Santé Palace are woefully inadequate. However, we are near the end. I have in hand all the documents that establish the truth upon an indisputable basis. I shall not publish them for the moment.